Stay tuned for the Splash Live. It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the Greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. Always encouraging you to stay along with us beyond our shows each and every day. Follow us across our social media, Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, and you can find us on X, on Instagram, and subscribe for free on our YouTube channel at Civic Center TV. Our top story today, perhaps the top story across the nation, as all eyes are on the economy with new tariffs set to go into place today, affecting trade between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, as well as other nations that commonly import goods into the U.S., such as China. With that, it's going to have an effect, and it has been having an effect on shoppers right here close to home in the Greater West Bloomfield area. They're already feeling the hit on their pocketbooks when they go shopping, particularly at the grocery store, as local shopper Dr. Joseph Barinholtz told Civic Center TV's team.
There are farmers, there are places like Pure Pasture where you can go and buy organic meats at half the cost that you would normally pay at a large chain. Well, it's been stunning. In the last 4 years, I've watched prices double as it relates to food, energy, and it's difficult to go shopping. I'm fortunate enough to afford most things in a grocery store, but I still tone back my purchases because of the prices that have escalated, specifically dairy products, poultry, meat. And it makes me just wonder how everyone's getting along with these prices rising the way they are.
And it's been no secret that shoppers in all different areas, whether you're going to shop for clothes, shop for gifts for birthdays or holidays for you and yours, these prices are affecting customers right here in Greater West Bloomfield. But it's definitely been the biggest hit we've heard of commonly across the board in our community and beyond has been at the grocery store. And as West Bloomfield resident Charles Collins told us, the hardest financial hit he's seen has been when he makes that weekly or twice weekly trip over to the local grocery.
Well, yeah, everything, but especially the eggs are really outrageous. But, you know, everything you buy now, every time, just like the bananas I bought, last week they were 69 cents a pound. Today they're 79 cents a pound. I'm really feeling for the people that's less fortunate, that's struggling a little bit more than I am.
The good news is that with weather warming, maybe some new options will also come into play that will bring some competition to the traditional groceries, or maybe even cut out the middleman in some cases for some of those goods like produce and reduce the prices a little bit. Some new strategies coming into play, especially for Dr. Joseph Barinholtz, who told us he's hoping that with the warmer seasons and farmers markets, he might be able to find some better deals.
There are farmers, there are places like Pure Pasture where you can go and buy organic meats at half the cost that you would normally pay at a large chain. Look for, in the summertime especially, go to farmers markets. Prices are much more amenable to people's budgets. But that's the best we can do until things are going to get sorted out, which I suspect will happen in the next year or two.
we'll be hearing a lot more on the economy coming up as soon as today. President Trump expected to speak to a joint session of Congress tonight. That address is expected to begin at about 9 p.m. The economy definitely going to be something in focus as he speaks, and something that's affecting us close to home each and every day. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. What are some strategies that you're employing as you're going out and shopping at the grocery store each week or in other places across our community and beyond to save yourself some dollars and perhaps help your pocketbook out a little bit with these economic fluctuations we've been experiencing in recent years? Go ahead and tell us across our social media, Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, and then on X and on Instagram. You can also comment on our posts from today at Civic Center TV. In some more positive news in sports, Greater West Bloomfield High School athletes have been prolific all across the great state of Michigan of late, both at West Bloomfield High School and many other institutions connected to us here in Greater West Bloomfield. West Bloomfield High School wrestlers coming up big recently at the MHSAA's state championship down at Ford Field. And often you'll see maybe one, maybe two girls on the wrestling team at most high schools. But at West Bloomfield, not only do they have more than a couple on their team, they've got 3 that are state champions, all placing in the top 10 amongst wrestlers in the state at the recent tournament. Here in this picture, you're seeing left to right Tamari, who placed in 3rd, Alexandria, who placed in 4th, and Eva, who placed in 7th, alongside their very proud coaches at midfield at Ford Field in downtown Detroit, representing Laker Nation well. And we've also been in contact with their team, hoping to get even more insight into this historic championship performance from our Laker wrestling team. Great news over there in the game of wrestling. On the basketball court, big performances on their way this week. The West Bloomfield High School girls varsity basketball team, let me remind you, state champions. They're still the reigning champs in this state. It's time for them to cash in on Coach McAllister's mantra, money in the bank, for March, their playoff campaign beginning Wednesday night at West Bloomfield High School, where they will take on White Lake Lakeland at 7 o'clock. That is the tip-off. Win, and they'll have another game this week on Friday. They'll come back to WB for the district championship game at 6 o'clock. Stay tuned for our coverage right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM, hopefully throughout the week, as the girls basketball team at WB continues their quest for a back-to-back championship performance. Another team in this same boat, but in boys basketball, the Fighting Eaglets of Orchard Lake St. Mary's, who won 69-44 against the West Bloomfield Lakers boys team on Friday to continue their state championship pursuit in 2025. That continues tonight at 5:30. They will take on Grand Blanc High School, the Bobcats, over at Rochester Adams for the regional semifinal. I'll be out there. We'll have some coverage on the Splash Live, and if they win tonight, the regional final is on Thursday, quarterfinals, state semis, and state title game all next week. So the Eaglets trying to go back-to-back in boys basketball. The Lakers trying to go back-to-back in girls basketball. Will they get it done? You'll be able to find out right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Just tune in to the Splash Live each and every day. I had a chance to speak to a guy who knows a little bit about winning basketball games in the month of March. He's a bona fide MSU basketball legend and a high school basketball legend from the classic Flintstones squad back in the day. Mateen Cleaves is also a dad of one of the players on Orchard Lake St. Mary's team this season. Had some insight on their recent district final victory and told me all about what he thinks makes this team so prolific in 2025 after that game.
I thought they won the game on the defensive end. Obviously, we know they got great scores. Led by Trey McKinney. Seniors, Sherrod, Zip. But I thought they won the game on the defensive end, and that's going to be the key for us. I think we can score when we need to, but the key for us, I think, is really lock in on the defensive end, and we should move further.
Your son's had a hell of an upbringing in the game of basketball, some good mentors so far, and being able to play with some of these seniors on this Orchard Lake team that have won state titles, play under Coach Covert. How's that experience been like for him?
Oh, it's been great, and he embraced it every day. He loves it. He talks about, the senior leadership and being able to compete against Trey and Zip and Sherrod, and then he's, picking things up from them as well. So, he's always in the gym looking and finding ways to get better, and and he's definitely benefiting from being around some great players and great coach, and so he's excited about it, and yet he just continue to try to learn and get better every game so he can, move further in the future.
It's a team that's been going quite far in the state tournament over the last several years, winning, of course, last year in familiar territory for yourself at the Breslin Center. What do you think this team's got to do going forward the next few games to get back to East Lansing and bring home their second consecutive title?
Block out all the noise, just take it one game at a time and keep playing together. I think when we play together, we're the best team in the state, but they just got to keep playing together, share the ball, keep working and helping each other on the defensive end. But if they can do that and play together, play hard with passion, I think they got a chance to win it all again.
We're about to head into March, and as we head into March, Trey McKinney will be playing at Michigan next year, but got to think about those Spartans having a pretty good year over there, too, with Coach Izzo.
Yeah, they are, man. They playing really good this year. And once again, same thing I'm saying here. When they play together at Michigan State, they're a very good team. When they try to do it individually, they struggle. So same thing, Michigan State's playing together right now. You mentioned Trey going to Michigan. That hurt my heart. And I'm going to be torn watching the game now because, I'm a Trey fan and he's from Flint. And, I'm going to wish him the best. But that's going to be a tough one to watch next year. But as you mentioned, Michigan State is playing good because they're playing together and they're listening to the best in the business, and that's Coach Izzo.
Orchard Lake St. Mary's defeating the Lakers tonight, winning a district championship. They move on to the regionals next week and a few steps back from going back to East Lansing to compete for their second consecutive state title. Alongside Mateen Cleaves at West Bloomfield High School, I'm Tyler Kieft, Civic Center TV. A very fun conversation I had with Mateen Cleaves about Orchard Lake St. Mary's. His son, Mateen Cleaves Jr., a key player for them in that win against the West Bloomfield Lakers, perhaps going to be a big player for them again tonight as they go back out on the road, this time a little bit further away, going to Rochester Adams. Tip-off of tonight's game is at 5:30. We'll have coverage right here on the Splash Live on Wednesday. Close to home, it is tax season in Greater West Bloomfield and beyond. But for those that are struggling in our community and across Oakland County, there is a program that is in place to help alleviate some of those tax costs and keep you from having liens on your home or possibly facing foreclosure. Civic Center TV's Jake Schaff recently spoke with Oakland County Treasurer Robert Wittenberg about that and more.
The Oakland County Treasurer's Office is committed to helping individuals, families, and business owners avoid tax foreclosure and to help them keep their properties. And there are several assistance programs to help delinquent property taxpayers. Here to tell us more about these programs, we have Oakland County Treasurer Robert Wittenberg joining us right now on The Splash. Robert, great to have you with us.
Jake, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you this day.
Absolutely. Glad to get into this conversation with you. A very important conversation as we're getting into tax season coming up very, very soon. So let's jump right into it. What assistance programs does the Oakland County Treasurer's Office offer to help property taxpayers?
Right. So obviously we're talking specifically property taxes. I know income taxes, people think about that April 15th. But for property taxes, March 31st is the deadline to pay off 2020, this year is it's a 3-year process. So 2022 and prior year taxes are owed by the end of March. So March 31st. And if not, then they can be foreclosed, obviously. And our goal, I always tell people, our goal in our office is not to foreclose. Our goal is to collect taxes. So we're doing everything we can to try to prevent foreclosure. And that's why I was actually at the West Bloomfield Township meeting last week, I think it was, to talk about the work we're doing. But appreciate that question. What we can do is we cannot forgive anyone their taxes, their interest, their fees, but we can try to give them more time to pay their taxes so we can get them on a repayment agreement that kind of extends out the time that they can pay. We also have a financial empowerment center within our office. So in essence, like a financial coach, which can help people with debt relief, budgeting, and then also help if there are any grants or any kind of resources available outside of our office. So that's kind of what we do. And we like to talk to people. We have what are called our taxpayer assistance meetings. So they're one-on-one meetings with people to talk about their unique situation and see if we can get them into a plan that works for them.
Awesome. Great resources to help these residents as they're trying to get these taxes taken care of. And you just touched upon it, how March 31st is going to be the deadline for these taxes. And you said a little bit about how if they are not paid by that period, foreclosure could be a very big possibility. Could you go into a little more detail about some of the things that might occur should these taxes not be paid on time?
Yeah, so again, March 31st, if they don't pay the taxes and we don't hear from them and we don't find a repayment agreement, then foreclosure can happen, right? And this is based on state statute, so we are following the state law. So we need people to reach out to us. As I say, we don't know you need help unless you tell us you need help. And so we encourage people to call our office, 248-858-0611. Go on our website, oakgov.com/treasurer. They can email treasurer@oakgov.com, so they can get in touch with all those different ways. And they can schedule a meeting to chat with us, again, to talk about their unique situation. But if we don't hear from you and you don't pay your taxes, then obviously foreclosure can happen. We want to hear from you, and that's why we're doing this robust outreach campaign. That's why I appreciate you having me on the show today to talk about this. That's why I'm going to township board meetings and city council meetings all throughout the county. It's a big county. We have 63 cities, villages, and townships, so I'm trying to get to as many as I can. And we're doing really just a push to tell people we're here to help. Please reach out to us. As I said, and I'll reiterate, foreclosure is not our goal. Our goal is to collect taxes. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to prevent foreclosure. A foreclosure could be detrimental, obviously, to the person or the family that's foreclosed, but also their neighbors and the community. So we're doing what we can to get out there to try to prevent it from happening in the first place.
That's right, and it's great that you're doing all of this work to help educate the people of Oakland County because, as you said, nobody wants to see foreclosure happen. We don't want to see it to happen to anyone, so it's good that you are educating everyone on all of these ways to make sure that taxes get paid and that you have enough time to do so. And one of the ways you can do that is with repayment plans. Could you talk a little bit about what these repayment plans are?
Yeah, so that's when we will talk through it with people and see what their situation is, right? Because obviously the taxes in different communities the amount is not quite the same. And so some people pay higher taxes, and so we're going to look at a little more loftier agreement. And then other people that maybe have a lower amount, we can try to work with them, though. But we try to get people to pay it off in usually 12 months. Sometimes we'll go out to 18 months. But for the most part, we're trying to get people to pay it off sooner than later. I always say it's a little counterintuitive to say it, but the sooner they pay it off, the less they're going to pay in the long run, right? There's interest and fees that are being added. So the more you pay now, the less you'll pay in the long run. So we're really trying to work with people to get them on a plan that works for them, but is a little bit aggressive so that they can get caught up sooner than later. Because it's only going to save them in the long run. But we try to work with people. If they have extenuating circumstances, we want to work with them. Also, if they have very low income, right, there are options with their local assessor and their local community where they can get a hardship exemption, which can lower their taxes as well. So we talk people through that as well. Also, a lot of people are in a position where they live in their house, they're there full-time, homestead, if you will. But they don't have what's called their principal residence exemption, which would lower their taxes. And so we work with them and give them the information they need to try to get that principal residence exemption added to their property, which will save them money as well. So we kind of talk through every unique situation and see how we can help them and then figure out an agreement that hopefully gets them caught up in no more than 12 months.
You just touched on something right there that I'm so glad you brought this up. The principal residence exemption, a very, very important thing for people to have. How can property owners properly apply for something like that?
So that's going to go through their local assessor, right? So specifically for West Bloomfield, you would call up to the city and ask for the assessor, and you want to talk to the assessor. And then there are some steps that you have to go through, and you have to qualify, right? So they'll want documentation to prove it. But that is something you call. And if people are watching this in other parts of the county, we have our equalization department, which is the assessor for probably about half of the communities here in Oakland County. And then about half of the communities have their own internal assessor. And they're the ones that everyone gets that notice in February every year. They're the ones that are handling that they send you about your property and what your property is worth and your taxable value, things like that.
For those just joining us right now on The Splash, we have Oakland County Treasurer Robert Wittenberg joining us right now, talking about the many different programs Oakland County has to help with foreclosure and relief programs to help make sure that everyone gets those taxes paid on time. And I want to ask Robert, in the last few years, what have you noticed in terms of foreclosure rates here in Oakland County?
So that's a great question. We actually, they went down. I took office in 2021, and we had a moratorium on foreclosures because of COVID in 20 and 21. And we have done just a big push to try to prevent foreclosure. As I've said, that is what we are trying to do, is to prevent foreclosure. And so we actually had the lowest foreclosure numbers we've ever had 2 years ago. And then last year it ticked up just a little bit, but still we're talking like record lows here in Oakland County. Because again, I think it's attributed to the work that our team is doing, that we do those taxpayer assistance meetings, that we are out in the community trying to help. And so it's making a difference. And the process itself, right, it's a 3-year process, as I said. So this year for 2025, anyone that owes 2022 and prior year taxes is subject to foreclosure. So we're doing our best to get out there and tell people to pay so that we can keep those numbers down as well, or get them into an agreement.
Awesome. All great things I'm hearing. Absolutely. It's great that you're educating everyone here in the community, and you're also educating about things like personal property tax exemptions. What types are currently available under Michigan law?
So that they also need to talk to the assessor as well. But there's a form that they file. Unfortunately, the date passed. It was in February to file it, but next year. But if people owe personal property, so it doesn't sound like it should be this way, but personal property is actually business. It's for businesses, the property that's in their business, not the actual fixture itself, not the building itself, but what's there. And so if people are delinquent with their personal property tax payments, that comes over to our office as well. So we become, in essence, the collection agent for that. And so we try to work with them, the businesses, the same way that we work with residents here in Oakland County to try to help them and their businesses. We want everyone to thrive in Oakland County, the businesses, the residents. So we're doing what we can to work with everybody.
Of course, you want everyone to be successful and you want everyone to thrive. And that is very important information should people have issues like this down the line. And where can taxpayers go to find a little more information about things like these and these assistance programs with Oakland County?
So I mentioned it a little earlier, but obviously going on our website, oakgov.com/treasurer, calling our office, 248-858-0611. They can email us, treasurer@oakgov.com, or they can come see us in person. We'd love to see them here in our office. We got a great team that's kind of the front lines, that's there chatting with people and working with people. So we're always happy to have people here in the office as well. So please reach out to us, go on our website, do what you can, but we're here to help. And so those are the ways that we would really encourage people to reach out.
Of course, and as I've been saying, it's great that you're having these communications one-on-one with people of Oakland County. Robert, I know you're a busy guy. Before I let you go, any additional information you can provide to the people of Oakland County and West Bloomfield?
I think we covered everything that we needed to. I appreciate people. The one thing, I guess there would be one thing is if you know people that are struggling, please encourage them to reach out. Please have them call our office. We want to help. And if they have questions about anything, they have concerns about anything, reach out. And that would probably be the main thing I'd want to say. But otherwise, I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate the audience for watching and listening to this. And if there's ever anything I can do, let me know. Obviously, I love living in Oakland County, and I love West Bloomfield. My in-laws are living there. My wife is from there. It's a great community, so I'm there often. So whatever we can do to make your life good, you let us know.
This is an incredible community, and it's made even better by the work you do. Robert, thank you so much for joining us today here on The Splash Live.
Thanks for having me, Jake. Take care, everyone.
Center TV's Jake Schaff alongside Oakland County Treasurer Robert Wittenberg. Very important program. Again, the website oakgov.com/treasurer. Their tax assistance program is underway. You can set up an appointment to call or even have an in-person appointment. I believe is also the case with the Oakland County Treasurer's Office. If you have back taxes that are owed at this time and you want to avoid foreclosure, an excellent program they've had ongoing for a number of years, oakgov.com/treasurer. We'll take a break on the Splash Live. On the other side, a focus on invasive species, a growing problem across the state of Michigan. What species are affecting us mostly here in Greater West Bloomfield, and what can you do to help the situation yourself? Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
Good nutrition can help make sure you have enough iron, calcium, and vitamin C in your body, which can make it harder for lead to enter your bloodstream. Help protect your family from the harmful effects of lead.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem. Don't let your gambling cause you financial hardship. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling, we can help. Get free confidential counseling and win your life back. Learn more at michigan.gov/problemgambling.
Hi, I'm Chris Fry, Park Superintendent, West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations, Civic Center TV, on 1 million views on YouTube. Thank you for all you do in the community, and thank you for having me on The Splash throughout the season to talk about activities out in the parks. Chris Fry, proud to be 1 in a million.
And now, back to the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Tyler Kieft. Invasive species are always going to be a problem in communities like Greater West Bloomfield and across the board, but they're becoming a growing problem, especially economically in our local area and beyond, costing an estimated $26 billion in economic damage on an annual basis across North America, according to experts. So which invasive species are common problems for us here in Greater West Bloomfield, and what can we do to get rid of them or to lessen their effect on our local wildlife? Joining us is an expert on that, West Bloomfield Parks Naturalist Supervisor Lauren Nazuri. Thank you so much for being with us, Lauren.
Thanks, Tyler. Although it's a kind of a gloom and doom subject, so maybe next time we can talk about something more happy and exciting.
There's always something happy to talk about in our natural landscapes here in Greater West Bloomfield, but we want to keep it that way, and the best way to do that is to kind of get rid of or alleviate the effect that these invasive species have on our local wetlands, woodlands, and wildlife. So what are some of the more common invasive species that tend to be problematic in Greater West Bloomfield?
Well, I would think the one that most would be able to recognize, because we are so rich in water here and water bodies, is Phragmites. It's the really tall one, over 8 feet tall, taller than all of us, with the big fluffy tuft on the top, and grows in wetland areas and roadsides and right-of-ways. That is the one that, we continue to battle, and it feels like a never-ending battle. But there are things that you can do if you have small populations of Phragmites, and that's a plant. But obviously invasives can be insects as well. But yeah, Phragmites is probably our most common and most recognizable one in our area.
And so what effect do they tend to have, the Phragmites, on those wetlands or other plant life that is natural to our wetland areas in our community?
Yeah, so by definition, an invasive obviously is not from around here. So that means that there is no natural cycle to control it. No animal in our area is recognizing these plants as something that they could eat or help control. So there's no way of like reining it in naturally here because it's not from around here. So that's one problem, is that there's no natural control. The other problem is that it crowds out other natural species which provide food and habitat for our other animals. But another huge issue that Phragmites is concerning is that it actually alters the pH of the water that it grows in. So eventually, if the patch gets large enough, it will alter the pH, which means that frogs can't live there, which means that all the beautiful water lilies that we have can't live there, which means that all of the water areas that you live in West Bloomfield for will look very different than they do now. So it can change in a lot of different ways. The other reason that it gets a lot of attention is because it is so tall and does tend to grow in disturbed wet areas like road right-of-ways, is that it can be a traffic problem because it will obstruct views around turns and in the middle of medians.
Yeah, I see that all the time in certain places in our community that, at some points of the year you can kind of take a look to your left, take a look to your right, and you're okay. But otherwise, you're kind of gambling on the traffic patterns, and that obviously is a big problem. There's so many others that are more ecological as opposed to human to human or with our machines. But you kind of got to go back to the point of origin. You would think that ports of entry would be where a lot of these invasive species get in to the United States, but how do they get into Michigan and more specifically into our local area so far inland?
Yeah, so it just depends on obviously the species, but while we're talking about Phragmites, that is grown and travels by seed head. So if you mow a road right of way here in our area, and then you don't clean your blades off and you have Phragmites seeds on it, then you might go to the next neighboring community and mow there and spread the seeds. So cleaning your equipment, and this is something that the Road Commission does now. They do clean their blades and equipment when they're mowing Phragmites. And you're also mowing at the right time of year, so you're not mowing when the seeds are ready to actually spread, when they're still enclosed in the plant. So knowing the life cycle of what you're trying to control is really important. But as far as what you can do in your own homes, if you're hiking in our parks and you went up north or to another state, we ask that you please wipe off your boots. It's simple as that. You can carry a lot of seeds just in the treads of your shoes. So cleaning your equipment and not moving firewood. I'm sure you've heard that before. If you've ever heard of the emerald ash borer years ago, was a big invasive species. I feel like people think that the not moving firewood is a ruse. Like they think, oh, the campground just wants me to buy their firewood, that's why. But there is actually really a very environmental reason why, and it's because many invasive species insects travel in firewood. So if you are going to go up to the Upper Peninsula, where maybe it's a little more pristine there, and you're going to bring firewood from here, you could be bringing egg masses from our invasive species that we have here that might not have made their way up there yet. So cleaning your equipment, not moving firewood, and knowing what to look for is really important.
Lauren Nazuri is with us, the Parks Natural Supervisor at West Bloomfield Parks. More information on their programs and different environmental learning opportunities for you and yours, wbparks.org, or follow them on Facebook at WB Parks. We're talking about invasive species becoming a growing problem across the U.S., having a massive economic impact across North America, but it's not uncommon to us close to home here in Greater West Bloomfield either. And we know that different units of government sometimes will enact controlled burns. We've had that most recently in West Bloomfield just a few years ago at Jacob's Landing nearby us here in West Bloomfield Township. But for the average everyday resident of Greater West Bloomfield, they run into some of these invasive species that if they're able to identify them. What preventative measures can they take to either remove them or prevent them from continuing to spread throughout the area?
Yeah, I mean, I know that we all travel with our boats if you have a boat and you live on a waterway. So cleaning your boats at a boat wash station before you bring it back home to your home lake or to a northern lake or a different state. So cleaning your boats is really important. But also, some of these species can be controlled by hand pulling them. So just knowing what time of year to do it and how to do it. Even though Phragmites is almost as deep as it is tall, so the roots go very, very deep. So you might be able to hand cut. I know that certain chemicals get a bad reputation, but it has been proven, unfortunately, for a lot of invasive species, plants, that there are certain chemicals that can control them when applied properly at the right time of year. But really also just learning what they are. I have so many people that will come to me and say, oh my gosh, there's a beautiful purple plant growing by my lake. And I'm like, oh, does it have a tall stalk with little purple flowers? That's purple loosestrife, that's invasive. Like, even though the flower is pretty to us, it will take over your lake and change the whole atmosphere there. So you might want to just pull that up. So just getting to be a little bit more aware of what to look for. wbparks.org/invasive species. We've got a great website with lots of good visuals. You're also welcome to always send our naturalist team any photos of something that might be concerning to you, and we can help you identify it. But yeah, just being a little more aware of, even though it looks pretty doesn't mean that it belongs here, and it can really be in a negative effect. As far as insects go, there's a big one around right now, and that's our spotted lanternfly. So you can be on the lookout for egg masses right now. That's the time of year. Spotted lanternfly is a little newer of an invasive species. Have you heard of it yet, Tyler?
I have heard of it. I haven't seen one. I don't know. I wouldn't be able to tell what it looks like, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, so this is the time of year that they have laid their egg masses, and we're looking for those. The adults won't emerge again until June, July. They'll be like little tiny little baby bugs. But right now we're looking for the egg masses, and they will lay their eggs on almost anything. So just to keep it aware, if you see something that doesn't look quite normal, maybe even on your patio furniture, they like to lay eggs, on your vehicles, on any really like hard surface, and obviously on the bark of trees as well. And you can scrape those egg masses off and destroy them. It seems counterintuitive because I obviously am always a proponent of protecting wildlife. But when it comes to invasive species, the best thing is to help control their population so that our native wildlife can thrive here. So if you have any idea of something that might be like kind of like, let me see if I got a good picture for you I can share. This is quite the poster here, the Stop the Invader. But the egg masses are kind of, they're about a ½ inch. And they can be shiny when they're first laid in the fall time, but right now they might even look more like this, like a crackled little like cake frosting, maybe old cake crackled frosting is a good description of how it is. Okay. But if you see that, you want to take a picture of it, and then you want to scrape it off and destroy it. And the photo helps us to know better where this is spreading. So it was first found here in Michigan in Pontiac at a greenhouse because it's attracted to another invasive species, which is tree of heaven. And so if you buy landscaping plants like Tree of Heaven, definitely be checking those plants in your backyard to make sure you don't have egg masses on them. But also check your patio furniture, check your vehicles, and look for these egg masses. Once you take that photo, make sure you share it. There's a thing that the Michigan DNR does that helps us locate and identify, and it's called Eyes in the Field. So obviously, all of us naturalists and scientists can't be everywhere in everyone's backyards. Of course. And especially in West Bloomfield, we're fortunate. A lot of people share with me that they live up, their property lives right up to a wetland or a forest area. And so really, we need everyone's eyes to help look for these things. So if you see something, you should report it. It's a quick, easy 5 minutes on a website, even less than that probably, to say, oh, I think I found something. And that really helps us get good data and where these spotted lanternfly might be traveling to.
And a lot of those you can find even more information on, kind of know what you're looking for that's common to our area, as Lauren said, wbparks.org/invasive species. Lauren Missouri, West Bloomfield Parks naturalist, with us on the Splash Live. Before we let you go, anything else that we should know on this topic as we speak today?
Well, you had mentioned the economic, right? The economic negativity of where we spend a lot of money on controlling invasives. The reason we want everyone to start learning about the spotted lanternfly and what to look for is that they really attack and thrive on ornamentals like trees of heaven, but also on grapes and apples. And we live in Michigan, and that's our like number 1 and number 2 crops here in northern Michigan. So definitely some concern in the agricultural industry here with these spotted lanternflies. So keep an eye out for those egg masses and help everyone out. And then, obviously, a great way to prevent this is to plant native species. So we always promote native species and more beneficial to the environment plants. So look out for our native plant sale in the spring. And then we were talking about how a way you can help out, right? So you can hand pull a lot of these. One invasive species we didn't talk about today, but is really common in our area, is garlic mustard. Yeah. It's a small little plant that can spread. It becomes a monoculture, takes over, but it's easier for us to control because we don't have to use chemicals. We just need a lot of people's hands to help us. So we do a garlic mustard gatherers in May, where the community comes together and we meet on the trail. and we kind of do a lively competition of who can pull the most prizes for the most pull. But we've seen such an impact of that over the years. Our fourth graders in West Bloomfield School District have come out year after year to help us pull. In the areas that they really focused on now, there's a lot of great natives growing there, and the garlic mustard has really gone down. So we've seen the impact of what we can do in our community together with that. So definitely come join us for a garlic mustard pull in the spring here.
All of that can be found on wbparks.org or follow them on Facebook at WBParks for even more information. Lauren, thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Tyler.
Appreciate it. Always great insight from Lauren Azuri and the naturalist team over at West Bloomfield Parks. They want to help you with this. If you're not sure what is an invasive species, how to deal with that in your yard or down by the lake on your property, wbparks.org/invasive species, or just contact them. Go to wbparks.org, talk to their naturalist team, and ask them questions. They love to answer these questions. They love to be helpful about them. And those native species she was talking about, we got a full feature on that. Go to our YouTube page at Civic Center TV. Just search native species, one of your favorite episodes, one of your favorite pieces of content across our platforms is A Minute with Nature. She did a full segment on what some of those species are that will improve your garden, improve your yard, and help to prevent some of those invasive species from taking over our community here in Greater West Bloomfield. On a much more positive note, it's a big celebration today across the Metro Detroit area. It's Fat Tuesday, otherwise known as Punchki Day, and there's a big celebration going on close to home in the city of Orchard Lake Village during the lunch period at Orchard Lake Schools. Civic Center TV's Jake Schaff is live with more. Jake.
How exciting.
Hey, Tyler, good morning. Happy Fat Tuesday, or Tłusty Czwartek, as it's known in Polish culture. But of course, most people know it as Paczki Day. I am here live at Orchard Lake St. Mary's Dining Hall, where the festivities are only just getting started. You can take a look behind me. You can see the Paczkis have already been started to be laid out right here for all the students to enjoy. Not quite yet, though, but they will be enjoying on these wonderful punchkis very, very soon. They come in 3 flavors for the students: strawberry, raspberry, and custard flavor. So I'm going to give you a heads up real quick, Tyler. If I come back to the studio looking a good 10 pounds heavier, you're going to know what the culprit is. I'm just letting you know right now. But everyone is very excited. Absolutely. But everyone is very excited. They smell delicious, and everyone's going to be chowing down on these punchkis very, very soon. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, big tradition over there. They also host the Polish Institute for Culture and Research. I had a chance to talk to Dr. John Radzilowski about this tradition, usually Fat Thursday in Poland proper, but we celebrate it on Tuesdays here in the United States. Big celebration happening over there. Jake will have more on that later on in the week. Stay tuned on Civic Center TV. Jake, thank you so much. Anything else from out at Orchard Lake Schools?
Just a lot of excited faces, a lot of smiles, and a lot of very hungry tummies. These punchkis are going to be put to very good use, and everyone's going to be having a great time here very, very soon.
Yeah, they're going to be very full of energy out there as they head over to Rochester Adams for that big basketball game tonight to cheer on their Eaglets over against the Grand Blanc Bobcats for the regional semifinal tonight. We'll have coverage of that. We'll have coverage of Fat Tuesday and more coming up on the Wednesday edition of the Splash Live. Stay tuned right here on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. There's plenty more to get to. We're going to take a very short break and come back with even more from across the Greater West Bloomfield community. I encourage you to stay with us live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with the Splash Live.
Good nutrition can help make sure you have enough iron, calcium, and vitamin C in your body, which can make it harder for lead to enter your bloodstream. Help protect your family from the harmful effects of lead.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
When you have a gambling problem, you have a money problem. Don't let your gambling cause you financial hardship. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling, we can help. Get free confidential counseling and win your life back. Learn more at michigan.gov/problemgambling.
Want to enjoy Civic Center TV on your social media? Find us on Instagram at Civic Center TV. Get notified when we upload one of our interviews, full episodes, and more. Thank you for watching and listening to Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm your host, Tyler Keefe. Encourage you to always stay tuned with us for the latest updates across Greater West Bloomfield. Watch us live each and every day throughout your work week, and to see even more special programming all across our social media. Facebook at Civic Center TV 15. You can also find us on X, on Instagram, and subscribe for free and hit that bell icon for notifications every time we go live or post new content on YouTube at Civic Center TV. We'll always be giving you plenty of good information that you need to know to keep yourself, keep your information, keep your family safe in our community. And always an issue are scam artists putting new strategies forth to try to take your information, take your money, or both simultaneously. They're getting really creative, especially nowadays when it comes to cryptocurrency, to dating scams, and so much more. So how do you protect yourself and your information online? We got great insight coming your way from Detective Tim Lillard from the West Bloomfield Police Department, who joins me on The Splash Live. Detective, thank you so much for being with us.
Hello, how are you?
Doing all right. How are you doing today?
Doing well, thanks.
Good. Glad to have you on to talk about this, because this is an issue that can affect anybody of any age that has some sort of connection to the web in 2025 and beyond. So presently, what are some of the more prevalent online scams that we're seeing affect residents in Greater West Bloomfield and nearby areas?
The biggest one right now is involving with WhatsApp. There's a lot of cryptocurrency, different platforms out there, and more coming every day. And here specifically in Southeast Michigan and in West Bloomfield, I mean, I've got numerous cases right now where people have gone on. One case where thought it was a dating relationship and then went over to investment stuff, and others that just propose themselves as investment for cryptocurrency and in hopes of these large returns. They're getting pretty sophisticated with having these websites showing other people potentially making all this money. They get people to invest it, and over a period of time, they keep investing more. Then when they go to try and take money out, they realize they're being scammed because they're getting asked for paying of fees from it, and it can't come from your proceeds. It's got to come from your personal account. And in reality, the whole setup is fake.
And so what are we seeing be maybe different now versus in past years as these scams sort of develop? Because as you said, people are getting a little bit more sophisticated as time goes on with the development of these scams. How is that manifesting presently?
Well, like in these platforms that they're creating, they're showing other people that are, and some of them are truly people that are investing, but unaware of the scam. And what's happening is they see these big paydays of, you invest 20, 30, 40,000 or more. And in a short period of time, your account is now up to 200,000. And so they start putting more money in. And I mean, there's people that have put $1 million in and that money's gone. They're not in the country, but they're using Telegram and WhatsApp to communicate and getting people to transfer money overseas.
And so as people get into these situations, they do so mostly innocently from the victim's point of view, trying to better their investment portfolio, make good for their family, pay their bills, whatever the motivation may be. From the scammer side of things, what sort of is the step-by-step process that we typically see them taking that turns this from what seems on the surface like an innocent communication maybe between people in a budding friendship to ultimately being a large-scale robbery?
For sure, yeah. No, that rarely are they doing the romance stuff now, but it is still happening.
Of course.
And then getting them to invest. It's like there's these investment groups on WhatsApp and Telegram, and they're they're never meeting anybody. They're never physically talking to somebody, no voice or video. And they're transferring money from their legitimate accounts into these other accounts through WhatsApp and Telegram. And they are elaborate where, like I said, when they try and withdraw money at some point, they're told you have to pay these fees because you've earned this money, but it can't come from your earnings. And I mean, they have like actual like trading lines going across their screen, showing cryptocurrency moving from one place to another. So it looks legitimate enough, but in no way is it. There, you know, like one case alone is Cambodia, where it turns out they're at, and other, you know, countries way outside of West Bloomfield. And people are just getting devastated because they're putting sometimes college money for their kids in there. They're very sophisticated in what they're doing.
And these are serious situations too. Like you said, these can affect people's immediate finances, their long-term finances, college funds, retirement funds. It could bankrupt you immediately depending on the scale of these scams. And so before it gets to that point where someone's in too deep, what should they be looking for as potential signs that they may be falling victim to a scam before it's too late?
Well, the very first indicator is legitimate companies aren't going to be, you know, doing investing through WhatsApp and Telegram. There's legitimate platforms out there for doing it, like, you know, Coinbase being probably one of the biggest ones. They're regulated, they're marketplaces. The government has things in place to make sure that funds are being tracked and legitimate people are doing it. So the biggest thing is they'll claim they're like part of Morgan Stanley and other investment companies. But as you know, these companies aren't going to be doing investment portfolios through WhatsApp and Telegram.
Detective Tim Lillard is with us from the West Bloomfield Police Department as we talk about scams that are affecting people here in Greater West Bloomfield and in nearby areas, particularly when it comes to cryptocurrency. But they mirror and they're parallel to so many other different kinds of scams that we see targeting people's personal information. Even lately, people have received mailers in the Greater West Bloomfield area saying that they have overdue bills for GFL Environmental, which hasn't been the trash and recycling service for our community in several months. Now it's over at Priority Waste. And so a lot of times you get these messages, whether it's snail mail or it's email, and it looks really legit. How do you sort of decipher between when you should be providing some information to a legitimate entity and someone's trying to take that information from you?
Sure. First of all, anytime you're receiving information, you're not requesting it, question it. Don't ever click links in any type of text message or emails. Always contact these places that you deal with, or if they claim to be from a bank or a legitimate source like Morgan Stanley, call the numbers that you know. The Amazon accounts, did you authorize this charge? If not, call this phone number or click this link. And these are always going to be scams. Amazon's not going to send you that kind of stuff. IRS doesn't send you tax bills or threaten you with jail. Always contact online the legitimate companies through a phone number that you know, not what's been sent to you.
Great advice from the West Bloomfield Police Department. You can find even more of this advice on ongoing scams and others that may arise, other tactics that may arise in our community and beyond. Follow them on Facebook at West Bloomfield PD for even more information. Detective Lillard, with only a couple more minutes left with you on today's program, but for people that do end up in these situations, whether they catch it early on or they catch it after it is a bit too late in the process and they've fallen victim to these scams, what steps can be taken and what can law enforcement do to help alleviate these scenarios, if anything at all?
Well, first of all, don't be afraid or ashamed. Very educated people, all walks of life, fall for these scams, including people in cybersecurity. Report it. That's the first thing. And then go on to ic3.gov, which is the letter I, the letter C, and the number 3.gov. Report it there. That's run by the FBI. And other government agencies, and it allows them to collect all this data from around the country, seeing the trends, and then hopefully picking up the case and trying to track them down.
And of course, when those scams are happening online and those funds have been moved around out of your bank accounts, in some scenarios, it can be really tough, if not impossible, to get those funds back in part or especially in full. So all the more reason to take some of this advice from Detective Lillard and the West Bloomfield Police Department to heart, and keep yourself aware of some of these ongoing tactics being used by very sophisticated people who are becoming a lot more skilled at enacting these scams as time goes on. Detective Lillard, anything else for us today?
It just, get in, make the reports. Don't ever pay, they'll threaten to send other information out and that. Don't ever pay that. Get law enforcement involved. We can help. We have resources and to help try to mitigate the loss or the exposure.
Always better to get some help from our local law enforcement when something doesn't seem quite right, to, at the very least, help yourself out, but possibly help many others not fall victim to these scams and these scammers across our local area and far beyond, trying to take your information and your money. Detective Lillard, thank you so much for your time today.
You're very welcome.
Glad to have you on and glad to talk about that topic, to get the information out there. These are the things that people need to know. You need to keep abreast of these strategies that scam artists are using online to target your information, to target your money. They're taking very creative measures, and they're using whatever they can to get that information as quickly as they can, take as much as they can, and leave you behind in the wake of that damage as well. So great advice. For more information and other safety tips from throughout our community and for online as well, visit the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield Police Department at West Bloomfield PD, facebook.com/West Bloomfield PD. A common topic of conversation recently surrounding our kids and our schools. What role do cell phones play in education in 2025 and beyond? Governor Whitmer and others in our statewide leadership are calling for potential restrictions by law to cell phone usage in our classrooms. Close to home, already policies are being enacted in classrooms directly and across our local school districts. Here for more insight is someone who's already got a policy in place in his classroom, West Bloomfield High School, Director of Bands, Jesse Sachs. Mr. Sachs, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, glad to talk to you about this because you're seeing the impact of cell phones and of social media on our classrooms each and every day on the front lines. You do have a policy in place in your classroom for your band students at this time. What is that policy?
Right. So one of our classes has been putting their cell phones up in pouches in the front of the room. Each student's assigned to a number, and they place their cell phone up in the pouch. I think that's been a really beneficial policy, partly because band, or rather all fine arts, are so much of a team environment whereby each student's participation directly affects the success of the rest of the class. So if we're working on something and for an example, the clarinets are on their cell phones, looking at Snapchat or any other social media platform, and I'm working with another section, then the clarinets don't hear what's going on with the other section, and they, and their lack of knowledge or lack of understanding of the trombone part, for an example, is going to affect them. So the cell phone policy of keeping it up in the front of the room seems to work well. It definitely improves the student engagement, and it also sets a better precedence for students to be fully engaged and focused. In our upper level wind ensemble, students have been using their cell phones strictly as tuners. So there's definitely some benefits to having cell phones in the classroom. They use them only as tuning devices. So, I grappled with the idea of having students put their cell phones up in the pouches for our second hour, which is our upper level group, and replacing it with a tuner. The downside of that, though, is the batteries kind of get, they get dead, or I've lost some batteries, and I have to keep replacing those. So at that point, once they're in the wind ensemble, they're mostly juniors and seniors, and they're mature enough at that point to know. Whoops, my light went off.
That's okay. It all happens.
They're mature enough to know that, okay, our phone is exclusively used for tuning, and at that point, I really haven't had any issues. So So it's a little bit different based on the class and based on their experience and knowledge of rehearsal etiquette. But all in all, I really do think the cell phone policy of not using them in class is beneficial. When I was in high school, even about 10, 12 years ago, we had that policy.
Of course.
And I think with the rise in social media and cyberbullying and so many different apps, I think it's definitely a more valuable educational experience for the students to refrain from their cell phones and have that separation between their social media outlet as well as their educational outlet. So definitely a proponent of it. In the few instances, like I mentioned in our upper level wind ensemble, whereby a tuning app or some other type of app may be necessary during instruction, I really do see great benefit in refraining from phone usage.
Jesse Sachs is with us. He's the band director at West Bloomfield High School. So we talk about cell phone bans in our classrooms, something that's being considered across the state, restrictions on cell phones in our classrooms and regulations on that may be coming down the pike from state Congress or from Governor Whitmer in the months or years to come, and also policies that are starting to be enacted in our local school districts. So here's the situation we're in. We're just about out of time on our live show, so we're going to wrap things up. We'll keep Jesse with us and post an extended conversation on our website today on civiccentertv.com. In the meantime, before we let you go from our live show, I want to remind you, you can always follow us and keep up to date on all of our latest stories and coverage from across Greater West Bloomfield on Facebook at Civic Center TV 15, on X, on Instagram, and on YouTube at Civic Center TV, and of course, on our website on civiccentertv.com. I want to give a big thank you to our entire team at Master Control, Ryan Younglove and Calvin Brown, and out in the field, Jake Schaff. For our entire team, I'm Tyler Kieft, live, local, social. This has been The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.